Imagine walking out to your mailbox. It's just a normal Tuesday, right?
A totally normal day.
You pull out this envelope from a state government agency, you tear it open, and you just stare at a bill. And it's not for $50. It's not for like $500.
Oh, not even close.
It is a bill for $50,000. And what did you actually buy? Nothing. This is literally an invoice just to access your own public records.
Which is, it's just staggering. But let's actually look at the mechanics behind a number like that. Because an agency doesn't just generate a $50,000 invoice by accident.
Yeah, they don't just pull that out of thin air.
Exactly. When you request your own files, the state can legally charge you for the labor required to, redact sensitive information.
Right.
So if your case file is thousands of pages long and they decide a paralegal needs to comb through every single line at some exorbitant hourly rate, well, that final bill isn't just a fee anymore.
It's a wall. It operates as a complete financial wall.
It really does.
So if you are listening to this and wondering how the state can legally withhold your own documents, well, that's the loophole. The records are technically public, but the cost to see them is just completely prohibitive.
And for the subject of today's deep dive, it actually gets worse.
Much worse, yeah. Because right next to that $50,000 invoice is a demand for $45,000 in alleged child support arrears. And this is for children he is legally prevented from even seeing.
Right.
Plus, there's an ongoing expectation of $3,000 a month. And I want to be clear, this is not some dystopian hypothetical. It is the very real, highly documented situation of a 100% disabled military veteran in Maine named Ryan Michaels.
Yeah, and when a single citizen is hit with demands of that magnitude, it forces a really critical examination of how the system is actually functioning.
Absolutely.
So our mission today is to sort of map out the actual anatomy of government oversight. We're unpacking this highly detailed email thread, this is from early 2026, between Ryan, the director of Maine's Office of Program Evaluation and Government Accountability.
That's OPEGA, right?
Yes, OPEGA. The director's name is Peter Schlack. And the third person on the thread is State Senator Trace Stewart.
Okay.
So we're going to explore what it actually takes for a normal citizen to hold a massive state agency accountable. We'll look at the steep bureaucratic hurdles engineered into that process, and honestly, what happens when the wheels of justice just stop turning completely.
Okay, let's unpack this, because it really is a David versus Goliath story. But in this version, David has to figure out the exact procedural paperwork required just to load a rock into his slingshot.
That is a perfect way to describe it.
Right. So we have Ryan Michaels living in Berwick, Maine. He is a 100% disabled veteran, completely unemployed, and he is acting as his own advocate. The legal system calls this acting pro se.
Right, pro se, meaning he doesn't have a team of high-paid attorneys running interference for him.
Exactly. He is just locked in this sprawling battle with the Department of Health and Human Services, DHHS, and specifically the Office of Child and Family Services, or OCFS.
And, operating pro se in a labyrinth like family court is notoriously difficult anyway.
Yeah.
But Ryan is dealing with obstacles that go way beyond standard legal maneuvering.
Right, because he's alleging some pretty severe due process violations here.
He is. Specifically, he claims DHHS placed this blanket administrative hold on OCFS investigative appeals, and they did this without notifying the affected parents.
Wait, hold on. How does an administrative hold even work in practice? Like, if you are a parent trying to appeal a decision that impacts your access to your kids, how can the state just quietly freeze the process?
Well, mechanically, an administrative hold just pauses the clock on your legal rights. So imagine hitting pause on a sports game, but only one team is actually told about the pause.
Oh, wow. That's incredibly unfair.
It is. The state essentially stops processing the appeals, which leaves the parents in this state of suspended animation. You can't move forward to a fair hearing, but you also haven't been given a final denial that you could take to a higher court.
So you're just stuck.
Exactly. You are completely trapped in legal limbo, just bleeding time and money.
Which is devastating, especially when the stakes are your own children. And you can probably see the trap forming here for Ryan. But he isn't just throwing these accusations around wildly, is he?
Not at all.
Yeah.
He has meticulously documented his case. In these emails, he references an entire packet of evidence. He calls it Exhibits A through G.
Yeah, I saw that. It's incredibly thorough.
Very thorough. He's using these exhibits to prove agency-initiated continuances, completely unanswered questions regarding his due process rights, and these strategic, incredibly late document disclosures.
Let's talk about those late document disclosures, because that is a textbook example of what Ryan calls procedural prejudice. In his exhibits, he shows that the agency would essentially dump hundreds of pages of documents on him right before a scheduled hearing.
Right, at the absolute last minute.
Yeah, I read that and immediately thought about the terrible choice that forces on a citizen. I mean, if you receive a massive document dump at the 11th hour, you either go into the hearing completely blind because you haven't had time to read the evidence against you,
No.
or you have to ask the judge for a continuance. And if you ask for a continuance, you are the one delaying your own justice even further. It feels like a deliberate tactic.
Oh, it absolutely creates a scenario where a fair hearing is just structurally impossible right from the start. And what's really fascinating here is that Ryan's core complaint to the Oversight Committee isn't even about the final ruling of his specific family court case.
Oh, that's a really good point. It's bigger than that.
Exactly. He is arguing something fundamentally deeper. He's saying that the state is basically ricking the game.
But, pointing out that the game is rigged doesn't actually fix the board. You need a referee. You need someone to step in and audit the people running the game. Which leads us to Ryan's attempt to trigger an investigation by OPEGA.
Right, the Office of Program Evaluation and Government Accountability.
Yeah, and this is where we get to see how a fortress-like state agency can actually be breached, supposedly.
Supposedly is the key word there. So Ryan starts by writing directly to Peter Schleck, who is the director of OPEGA, just to clarify the rules of engagement. And he, very strategically, CCs Senator Trey Stewart on this exact email.
I have to highlight how brilliant that reply-all strategy is.
Oh, it's incredibly smart.
By putting the director and the senator on the exact same email chain, Ryan is forcing transparency. He is essentially saying, Director Schleck, please tell me the exact rules, and Senator, please watch him tell me, so we all have the exact same instruction manual.
And it works. Because Schleck writes back with what is essentially a masterclass in bureaucratic procedure. He outlines very clearly that a regular citizen cannot simply submit a complaint to OPEGA.
Right, you can't just fill out a web form.
Not at all. It is a very rigid sequence. Director Schleck explains that an investigation can only be triggered if a legislator actually sponsors it. A private citizen has literally no direct mechanism to pull the alarm.
Wow.
Yeah. A legislator has to submit a formal letter to the Government Oversight Committee, or the GOC.
To the GOC, right. And how often do they even meet?
Well, that's another hurdle. That committee only meets twice a month during the legislative session.
Oh, man.
And it gets harder. Then the sponsoring legislator actually has to sit at the witness table, present the request to the committee, and endure their questioning.
Here's where it gets really interesting to me, because it is basically like pitching a movie in Hollywood.
That's a great analogy.
Right. You can't just send a script to the studio. You have to convince an executive producer, in this case the senator, to take a meeting with the studio board, which is the GOC, and then they have to vote on it before a single camera ever rolls.
Exactly. And even if the senator agrees to sit at that witness table, it's still not a guaranteed investigation.
Wait, really? After all that?
Yeah. After the senator presents the case, the committee still has to vote. And Director Schleck is very clear in the email. It requires a supermajority.
A supermajority?
Yes. 7 out of the 12 GOC members must vote in the affirmative just to authorize OPEGA to even look into the matter.
Wait, I need to stop you right there. A supermajority of 7 out of 12. That is higher than the threshold required to actually pass a piece of legislation in a lot of democratic bodies.
It is very high, yeah.
Why is the barrier to simply investigate a government agency higher than the barrier to actually make a law?
Well, if we look at the architecture of the system, that high barrier does serve as a necessary filter. Think about it. If any citizen with a grievance or like a personal grudge against a state employee or just an unfavorable court ruling could trigger a full taxpayer-funded investigation.
The system would just break down.
Completely. The Oversight Office would collapse under the sheer volume of requests within a week. So the supermajority ensures that only issues with broad, undeniable systemic implications actually get those resources.
Okay, I mean, I understand the need for a filter to prevent frivolous complaints. I get that. But in practice, look at what this actually demands of you as a citizen or someone like Ryan.
Oh, it's an unbelievable burden.
You are already buried in paperwork. You're facing $50,000 in arbitrary fees. You're trying to navigate family court without a lawyer. And suddenly, you are required to possess the political acumen of a seasoned Capitol insider.
You really are.
You essentially have to become an expert lobbyist for your own life just to get a fact-finding mission started. It's wild.
It is wild, which is why the next phase of this correspondence is so compelling to read. Because armed with these brutal procedural rules, Ryan just shifts seamlessly into diplomat mode.
Yeah.
On February 3rd, he officially requests Senator Stewart's sponsorship.
And the framing he uses here, I think this is vital for anyone listening who ever needs to petition their government. Ryan writes that he is not asking the senator to endorse his specific allegations. He's not asking him to reach any conclusions in advance. He only asks the senator to sponsor an independent fact-finding review so the public can rely on verified facts rather than, quote, agency narratives.
Yeah, he is offering the senator total political cover, saying, I just want facts rather than agency narratives, is such a powerful, neutral rallying cry.
It really is.
Yeah.
So how does the political machinery actually respond to a perfectly pitched request like that?
Well, Senator Stewart replies the very next day on February 4th. And he doesn't offer this dramatic, yes, I will be your champion response, but he also doesn't shut the door.
Okay, so what does he do?
Instead, he CCs his own staff members, Heather and Craig, and he asks Director Schleck 3 highly operational questions.
Oh, interesting. What were they?
First, does the sponsor have to actually sit on the Government Oversight Committee? Second, what format does the request take like? Is it an actual bill? And third, what is the timeline and what is my specific role?
You know, I read those questions and I immediately thought, this is what functional government looks like behind the scenes.
Yes. If we connect this to the bigger picture, that February 4th email is the very essence of representative democracy functioning properly.
Yeah.
The senator isn't grandstanding for a camera or making empty promises.
Right. He is calculating the political capital required to actually take this on. Ryan is so polite and clear, and the politician is asking exact how-to questions. But why the specific focus on the format and the timeline? Like, why does that matter so much?
Because a senator's most precious resources are his staff's hours and his own political leverage. He really needs to know if his staff has to draft a complex legal bill or just write a basic formal letter.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah. He needs to know if he has to burn favors with committee members or if he just has to show up and testify for an hour. And Director Schleck answers promptly. He clarifies that it's just a letter, not a bill, and he details the whole witness table protocol.
So the table is perfectly set. Everyone understands the mechanics. Ryan has provided his flawless exhibits A through G. The senator has his procedural questions completely answered by the director of OPEGA. The gears of oversight appear fully greased and ready to turn.
They do.
Yeah.
But bureaucracy, however, operates on legislative time.
Right.
And real people have to live their lives in real time.
That is such an important distinction. Imagine checking your inbox every single morning. You know that the fate of your family, your access to your children, your financial survival, it all relies on this one politician who asked 3 operational questions and then just vanished.
Just completely disappeared from the thread.
We jump in the email timeline from February 4th all the way to June 21st. That is over 4 months of total agonizing silence.
And we really have to note the significance of that specific date. June 21st, 2026 was Father's Day.
Wow. Yeah, so Ryan sends a follow-up email to Senator Stewart. After 130 days of absolutely no updates, he notes the painful irony of the calendar.
It's heartbreaking.
It is. He is a father legally prevented from seeing his children due to these unresolved, opaque, bureaucratic maneuvers. And he's sitting at his computer on Father's Day just politely asking a politician if a decision has been made.
The juxtaposition between the sterile procedural delays of the state and the deeply human reality of a father separated from his kids. It's just devastating.
So what does this all actually mean? I mean, how is it acceptable that a citizen plays this rigged game perfectly?
Right.
Ryan doesn't yell. He doesn't threaten anyone. He meticulously follows every single procedural step. He builds an evidence packet so solid that it catches a senator's eye. He offers a totally reasonable request for transparency, and his reward is 4 months of dead air.
This raises a really important question about the sheer endurance required for citizens seeking accountability. Because, you know, it is highly likely that the delay from the senator's office wasn't actually malicious.
You think it was just the schedule?
I do. From February to June is the absolute height of a legislative session. The senator and his staff are juggling hundreds of bills, probably state budget crises, and literally thousands of constituent demands.
So to the senator, Ryan's meticulously documented crisis is, unfortunately, just one file on a very crowded desk.
Exactly. But for Ryan, it is his entire existence. The system demands that a private citizen act like an emotionless, highly organized corporate lawyer.
Right, you must submit your exhibits, observe protocol, respect the timeline.
Yeah, but the stakes aren't a corporate merger. The stakes are this man's family and his impending financial ruin. The psychological and emotional toll of maintaining that kind of professional composure while your life is actively being dismantled by the state is just immense.
Ryan actually ends that Father's Day email by quoting the biblical book of Micah, chapter 6, verse 8. He writes, "What does the law require of you but to do justice, to love mercy, and to walk humbly with your God?"
That's powerful.
It is. He isn't making a threat. He is making a profound appeal to basic human decency. He is reminding the machinery of government that beneath the administrative holds and the supermajority votes and the $50,000 invoices, there are actual human beings suffocating under the weight of the process.
It strips away all the bureaucratic jargon we've been discussing today. He is just asking the people inside the system to remember their underlying mandate to do justice.
Which really brings the entire saga into sharp focus. So, to summarize what we've mapped out today, we explored the staggering financial and procedural walls state agencies can build.
Like charging $50,000 just to access public records.
Exactly, or dropping hundreds of pages of evidence on a citizen the night before a hearing. We demystified the whole OPEGA review process in Maine, seeing how a citizen must navigate from a simple grievance to securing a legislative sponsor, all the way to convincing a supermajority of a committee to even authorize a fact-finding mission.
And if you are listening to this and you ever find yourself needing to fight City Hall or push back against a massive state agency, you really should take detailed notes from Ryan Michaels' strategy.
Absolutely.
First, document absolutely everything. Create your own exhibits A through G, tracking every late document dump and every unanswered question. Second, understand the exact procedural mechanics of the Oversight Committee you are petitioning before you ask a politician for help.
And third, give those politicians an easy out. Don't demand that they declare you the absolute winner right out of the gate.
Right, that's too politically risky for them.
Yeah. Frame your request around transparency. Ask them to sponsor a fact-finding mission so the public has the truth. It is infinitely easier for an elected official to say, "I support finding the facts," than it is for them to say, "I support this specific citizen against a powerful state agency."
It is brilliant strategic framing. But as Ryan's 130 days of waiting demonstrate, even with perfect strategy and impeccable composure, the silence from the system can be truly deafening.
Which leaves us with a final thought for you to mull over long after this deep dive ends. If our democratic system requires a citizen to act as an unpaid lawyer, a seasoned lobbyist, and a patient saint,
Yeah.
if it forces you to endure crushing financial fees and months of agonizing silence just to get a hearing on whether your rights were violated in the first place, is the process itself the punishment?
When the cost of admission is a $50,000 invoice, just to read the evidence being used to dismantle your family, you really have to wonder if the bureaucracy is using procedure as a substitute for policy.
You really do. Just imagine opening that mailbox again tomorrow morning. That bill is still sitting there, the calendar is still turning, and the clock is still ticking.